Woo. Okay, my bad, y'all. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what the heck happened. I tried to use Rumble Studio. It would allow you to multi-stream on like 50 platforms. I could not get the camera to work, so I just figured it's easier just to come straight to YouTube. I'm so sorry about that. I'm late. It's inconvenient. It sucked. I got an attitude. I was mad. Time to decompress. How y'all doing? Well, since I wasted about 45 minutes of your time, let me just jump right into it. No, I don't need the second screen no more. Close this down. Chip my laptop and everything. We are going to check out some rosin and making some bubble hash. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and jump on into it since I wasted y'all time. No, I didn't say that. Okay.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's B from B's Bees here, coming back once again with an ice hash tutorial, or bubble hash as some people call it. It's called bubble hash because what you're doing is sifting the resin heads out of
I hope you can
your
hear
plant
this.
material.
I'm just trying to adjust
And we're only going to use ice and gravity today to make this. So that's one reason why I like making ice hash, is because it's organic.
Okay, no, it sounds like it's working.
You only use ice and gravity. So, as you can see, we have our Bubble Bag Dude Co. bags here. There's 5 of them.
Don't want to blow y'all out.
The 220. The blue 220 is your work bag. I also have some stirring tools here laying around. I also like to keep a extra 5-gallon bucket with a bigger stirring handle there. You can see that is what I'm going to use. And so once you get your bags layered in here, and actually, to say one thing about these bubble bags, they've had a good handful of washes with them and they've held up so far. So I like using them, and I would say I recommend them right now. So check them out, Bubble Bag Dude Co. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe below and say hello in the comments. So once you get your bubble bags all lined up in the 5-gallon bucket, you can start layering your ice and your material in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Definitely recommended to do this.
Oh, okay. I still got the speak on. I'm sorry. That's what.
And I don't know how much plant material I'm using, but I'm using a good amount. I don't know what it is.
I was wondering why.
But it's a good paper bag full. I also recommend working in a sink because you're gonna wanna
just this again.
Speed up the melting process here by getting some cold water on it to help loosen up the ice so we can stir it.
All right. My bad. Sorry, malfunction. It's just been a rough day, y'all. Oh yeah, definitely best wishes for the new year. Thanks, Paul.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's B from B's Bees here, coming back once again with an ice hash tutorial, or bubble hash as some people call it. It's called bubble hash because what you're doing is sifting the resin heads out of your plant material. And we're only gonna use ice and gravity today to make this. So that's one reason why I like making ice hash, is because it's organic and you only use ice and gravity. So, as you can see, we have our Bubble Bag Dude Co. bags here. There's 5 of them, from 25 to 220. The blue 220 is your work bag. I also have some stirring tools here laying around. I also like to...
He used about 4 bags. Like, yeah, I've kind of primarily cut it down to just, what's that, like the 220 or something like that? The first one you get to hold all the mass in. And then, no, I guess it is 4. Yeah, like the 73. Then I use the, it's like usually what, a 47 or 43 or something. Then the 25, which is the final one. So, okay, that's not too odd. That's definitely not too odd. I just want to see him not use water.
Keep a extra 5-gallon bucket with a bigger stirring handle there. You can see that is what I'm going to use. And so once you get your bags layered in here, and actually,
Really?
to say one thing about these bubble bags, they've had a good handful of washes with them and they've held up so far. So I like using them, and I would say I recommend them right now. So check them out, Bubble Bag Dude Co.
Okay, yeah, I had, I guess I got some knockoff bags. And, oh shoot, that's what's going on. Yeah, I got some knockoff bags. And I guess they made it about, what, 4 runs, something like that. And I was about the end of that. It started to get a little waxy and greasy to me. And I couldn't really wash whatever was off the sides. I started to notice things were collecting. So I basically just got rid of it for the most part.
And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe below and say hello in the comments. So once you get your bubble bags all lined up in the 5-gallon bucket, you can start layering your ice and your material in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now.
Okay.
Definitely recommended to do this with gloves on.
He was going with gloves, okay.
And I don't know how much plant material I'm using, but I'm using
Like, yeah, I usually really don't use gloves, not plastic gloves like that, to, I guess, protect my hands. I'm more so, I guess I'm using like winter type gloves because it's so freaking cold. All I like doing is outside, like in the winter time, just to kind of ensure that the oh no, I can hear myself in the phone. I'm using that as to see the chat. But I actually come in here because this gets actually colder. This is in the back of the property, and it's a lot of tall trees, so it doesn't really get much sunlight in the wintertime. And then in the summertime, it gets sun immediately, so it's a hot box. But I'll come in here in the wintertime, freeze a couple of plastic bottles of water overnight along with the trim, because all of that has to be basically frozen as well for the trichome heads to come off. And what is the centrifugal force, like the whirlpooling, is what is supposed to extract the trichome heads, not necessarily trying to break them off with the stirring, from what I've heard.
good amount. I don't know what it is, but it's a good paper bag full.
Oh, it's 2 beats, sorry.
I also recommend working in a sink because you're gonna wanna speed up the melting process here by getting some cold water on it to help loosen up the ice,
I didn't know you had it on.
so we can stir it. And as you can see, we got a long way to go.
Oh, okay, wasn't kidding. I thought he was gonna put some kind of water in there. He really didn't.
So you can see it's not all pure bud in here. We're using some shake and just kind of the leftover stuff, which is kind of where this idea got thought of. Kind of what can we do with the extra material here that still can be used, but you don't want to smoke it.
Now that's pretty much where I'm at this point. The main reason I started incorporating this is just help with a lot of the harvest or the trim. I can basically just kind of take a branch off and scrape off all the little larvae stuff, so if I don't feel like trimming, it's not worth it. It'll be 2 little snips on, I guess, a Q-tip. So it's a lot easier just to throw this into the bucket for the most part. So I appreciate that out of it. And like you're saying, using your scraps, any of the, I guess, sugar leaves or any leaves that had some kind of trichome formation on it. Right? You're not back? You're not back, baby? There we go.
The idea is you want to let the water help sink the resin heads to the bottom
Okay, see, I knew
of your
it.
bags.
I was wondering
And
how
as long
these
as they're
weren't
all
gonna use
cold
no
and
fucking
frozen,
water. Okay,
that should help with that process.
but he filled it up first. That's interesting. Okay, okay. I guess I put the water in the buckets, leave the water out in here, out in the outside temperatures. Put the the bubble bags over top of the bucket. Like put a lid on it, leave it for overnight. Grab all the stuff from out of the freezer, throw the bud on, then I'll throw the frozen water bottles on top of that. So I see I'm doing something wrong. I thought I got some pretty decent extraction from like 3, I guess, freezer bags of like trim, shake, leaf. But yeah, I might need to revamp my skills, go back to the drawing board like Wile E. Coyote.
Now there's another reason why they call it bubble hash. Because when you're doing it right here and you start mixing everything up, this is how you know it's working. And you're at a good point here is when all these bubbles start coming to the surface. You want to just keep working around the material and add more ice as you see your little soupy mixture needs.
Okay.
So you gotta check out those bubbles in there. When
Yeah,
people
I
ask how
apologize
long
again,
do you
y'all.
do this, you pretty much do it until
That was a good picture of kind of what everything looks like once it kind of gets saturated and cold. And right before you're ready to stir, like I've even seen people with like with a drill with a paddle on the end to spin this stuff around. So I'm curious to see what his technique is. It looks very manual.
definitely bubbles show, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know, it might take you 10, 15, 20 minutes to mix it all, make sure everything's very well saturated. And what you're gonna do, we have the second bag of ice here, because we're gonna rinse it twice. And if you don't rinse your material twice, you're missing out on a lot more hash you could be gathering.
Twice.
And as I
Okay.
like my consistency of my soup here, I'm gonna pull my work bag up. We can call this.
I only usually give it, after the initial rinse, I'll put the stuff back in the first bag, rinse it, try again, and that's it. And usually, depending on if it's a decent yield or it didn't seem worth it, I would continue on. And usually, it seemed pretty significant for the most part. So I figured everything was done. But he's saying I'm still missing out. I got one more level to go. Wow. And I guess being out in the cold, like I said, when I do this, it kind of mentally breaks me. So I'm ready to go in the house, just constantly doing this. At least he's in the house, keeping everything cold. So, yeah, maybe I'm approaching this all wrong. I've seen a lot of people doing this in the freezer. So I guess that's where I'm getting the mentality of having to be outside from.
It's the work bag because all the material is going to stay into this bag in ice. Just going to raise it up here and work the bag a little bit more. Make sure the material at the bottom comes to the top. The biggest thing to note about this is the consistency of the soup that we made here. Notice it's a lot of water. The water is going to be the conductor that takes all the good stuff that you want to the bottom of your bucket.
Wow. It doesn't seem like much spinning would be going on.
I've been washing that for a solid 10 minutes, I'd say.
Okay.
And we're going to go ahead and pull this first round out. So what I'm going to do is take my work bag, pull it out.
Whoa. It didn't look like he really did anything. I thought he was patting everything down for the most part. He was really getting in there. That seems like a lot of material to get through, and it didn't seem like he was like getting to the bottom or in the middle or anything. Am I missing something? Yeah, I thought it'd be, definitely a more vigorous, I suppose, whirlpooling. It didn't seem anything like what bud washing fake washing machines people be using. So I'll see.
Oh, let it drain.
Oh, we'll see.
And it's gonna go into that second work bucket. So we save the work bucket, and now we start sifting for stuff to keep.
Okay. Sifting for stuff to keep, or isn't
You can
the
see
stuff
as
you
it
sift?
drains.
Hold on, isn't the stuff you sift the stuff you keep? You're supposed to be sifting through the stuff you sifted? I'm confused. Yeah, yeah, anything you don't want to use, or hash oil. Like I make tincture sometimes. I don't know if it's because it's Everclear is what hits you, or it's actually like a super medicinal, like cannabis effect or whatever. But I'll always do that one too. After I do the bubble hash extraction, like I said, I'll rinse it, then rinse it again, and kind of call it a day. I'll try and spread everything out, let it dry out. Then I'll take that and put that into a jar with Everclear and kind of extract cannabis that way. Filter it out, and then you have what, green dragon tincture.
There is the material that we want to keep.
Don't you need a hose? Oh, that's probably why it's by the sink, because you need a hose to kind of spray the sides down.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's some pretty big plant particle material in there. This first bag, they say, is good for edibles. Of course, you can still smoke it. It's going to be a little more grainy, but this stuff is definitely still a keeper.
Okay, I didn't necessarily know that there was levels to it, what it's good for. I just know what the 25 micron stuff is the purest. That's like the stuff you want to make the hash balls and rosin from. Then the next one up I see is like either a 43 or like a 47, something like that. And that's good, not as pure, but it'll definitely get the job done. And I don't know going much past that how beneficial it would be, but I guess that bag is the first one, so you can use it to make that. I guess they'll be low grade. I don't know. I'd probably want to go with the little higher stuff personally, but I'll smoke the weak stuff, like throw that on J's or put it in a bowl or something like that. Oh yeah. So we'll finish this up first.
Keep these right here because we're going to do a second wash.
Oh, nice choice of music.
That's some nice ash in there.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. And I like the fact that the bag is color coordinated like that. Mine was a different. It just had a little label on the side that was different colors. It didn't help as good, but you'll visibly know what grade you had from these. So I guess this is the original guy who did them, right? The bubble bags and everything else is kind of a knockoff. Yeah, probably. I think it was probably the same. Yeah, it was definitely cheaper. That's why. And oh yeah, I got a bag to put all those bags in, um, a moisture screen and a scraper. All came with it, probably for like, I'm guessing $13 rings a bell, $13.99. And I think at the time the bubble bag system was like in the high 30s, so that's probably why I did it. But I still have the bubble bags, I'm guessing now, and I just threw the ones I had ordered from Amazon away last year. I want it back now.
Of course, your hash is only going to be as good as the material that you put in it. So garbage in, garbage out. As we get deeper into the bags, the water drains slower as there's more stickier material in there. The good stuff.
And like the catch is at the bottom, isn't it? So like the toughest part to me is getting it out of the bag at this portion. Like when you're hosing it down and getting everything to collect on the bottom, it seems to move real easy. But once it's at the bottom, I always have a hard time. Like no matter how small the spoon is, I'm using a scrape. It's really hard to get the stuff off. And I think at one point I was like using a razor blade, and that's what added to the deterioration of the bags, just kind of constantly scraping micro layers off. And I guess also leaving a place for the whatever little residue to stick on. And that just added to the deterioration of it. That's all.
That's good.
I'm just marveling at the quality.
Now we're on the very last micron bag.
Okay.
Everyone knows that this is going to be your best stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we got here. Just going to work it back and forth to help.
And about this point, this is probably like the lowest yield stuff that I get. When he's at the last bag, that's usually the smallest yield. The middle bag is usually probably double whatever that is. Most of the time I've done this. So I guess about 5 times. So I guess 3 out of 5. The middle bag was the best results, the best yielder. Maybe not the best quality, but the best yielder. So yeah, let's see. Drum roll, please.
Speed up that process of the draining. All right, guys. Well, this is the last bag, so I want to thank you for watching. That's essentially part 1 of how to make bubble hash or ice hash. As we scoop this out here and put it on the tray, stay tuned for part 2 in the curing process and how to turn this into a final product that you're going to want to smoke.
Damn.
So thanks for tuning in. Part 2 is coming right up.
I wish I had known that.
All right, everybody.
I'd what you call it? Hold on, wait a minute.
But it turned out okay. We got most of it off
we
here.
go.
And you know, you're going to want to let your hash chips dry for at least a day or 2 or 3, maybe even a little bit more, but not too long.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to think about it. I was tripping. I knew that there was more to this video than that. That was it. That was a letdown. We at least get to kind of see some results he had. So I guess this isn't all from just that last washing he did. This has to be a collection of a few from the looks of the benefits here.
Because what you're trying to do here is avoid mold forming. So what you want to do first, as I get my gloves on here, is push as much as you can through a strainer, is what I'd like to do, to ensure everything's broken up and it's going to be dry.
Oh, this is that part? Okay.
This is going to divide all these clumps up, break them up, and make sure there's no moisture in there. In this process, you're going to try and repeat it for each grade of your hash, but it's going to get more difficult to push grades, 2 and 1 through the strainer. The next step after everything gets strained here is you're going to want to fill up a wine bottle or some kind of bottle, like a rolling pin type of thing, that you can get hot.
Okay, to press it. And if I'm not mistaken, that's like popularized by Frenchy Cannoli, R.I.P., who's like the hash man, the aficionado, the guy to know. And I think Duchess, who was associated with him, from what I understand, I used to watch the videos years ago, she also recommends that process. Take preferably a wine bottle because the glass is a little thicker, and putting very hot water in it and rolling out the hash that way.
So you can melt these Tichrome heads together as much as they are Tichrome heads. I already put boiling hot water into this wine bottle. Okay, it's very hot to the touch. I can't hold it long.
Okay, yeah, he's got a wine bottle. And the other thing that I don't think he was touching on is the different colors that you'll get out of the different grades at times, I noticed. Sometimes, especially the first bag, the first thing to sift it through, it's a lot darker of a color. You can see more impurities inside of it. Half of my frames are dropping. Okay. and that's coming from here. My fault, y'all. But by the end of the bag, the 25 micron, it's a much lighter color and, you know, less impurities, I'm supposing. But you'll go from kind of even a green brown to, I guess, say medium brown to a very like almost sand-like color with the lightest micron bag, I noticed.
So I'm gonna take a towel, get my wax paper, try to group this together, fold it over. We're gonna start packing it back together.
Oh, that's me, my bad.
Just gonna check it periodically. You can see now it's starting to clump.
That was hard, sorry. I was trying to do my own.
And be careful, because your wax paper will break, as it looks like it's already breaking on me. Fantastic.
I think he means parchment paper, because wax paper will actually kind of melt to it. So I think he's mistaken by saying that. That's fine. I was saying wax paper too. But
now, it's really sticking to this wax paper, which is annoying me.
Yeah, okay, it is wax paper then, 'cause it's not.
Now we're in a bit of a ball, and we're gonna do it again.
Is sticking to it. You should be using parchment paper. Yeah, I learned that the hard way back when I was younger. Yeah, why is this on fire? Could it possibly be the wax on it? Wax on, wax off, smoke off.
And so for today's purposes, I'm gonna call that good. We're gonna just leave this in a chip form, leave it nice and thin. If there's any more moisture in there, it's gonna come out. I doubt it. So we're gonna call that one good. But what I'm gonna do is skip from my lowest grade hash to my high grade hash here. You can see it's already in a ball because I was letting this dry in the sun, and I was just able to push it into a ball with my fingers. So you know that's gonna be good. And what we're gonna do, same process.
Press it out again.
Looks like it still wants to rip. Oh man, this stuff is
let it cool off too.
sticky.
I usually
I don't want to get any wax paper in there, that's for sure. Jeez. No.
Yeah.
All right, we got a little issue.
I thought so.
You don't want wax.
Hey, Uncle Curly, how you doing? Yeah, you're making some temple balls, exactly. Well, he's using wax paper too, which is funny. I thought he would have learned his lesson with the first one he did, but I guess he's trying to get the video done. I've definitely been there before. I've definitely been there trying to get the video done, pushed through. Even though you might be a little embarrassed, that's okay. But he's kind of leaving it in chip form. And I guess, yeah, making a temple ball, it's got to be your pure stuff to get that shine on it, from what I understand. So, nothing much, enjoying the day. I was having a big problem, and I'm glad everybody stayed who stayed through all my great streaming that I'm doing. I'm so good, I had to shut down the last stream and start a new one. That's how great I am. But no, everything is going well, and definitely want to do this with parchment paper. That's definitely step one. He's trying to go for something that's going to have a non-stick effect, but I would definitely, especially if it's wax paper, let it cool. And that's another reason that I do it in the wintertime, because you can pretty much just put it on a concrete floor and it'll freeze up. The ambient air is warm with the heaters and stuff, but the floor is still touching outside. So within like a minute or two of all that heat pressing, you can pretty much flip it over and it's hard as a rock, and you can start to repress, refold all over again. Uh-oh. That's not what I was trying to start, but I'm glad I did do that.
Wax paper in your shit?
Wax paper. I've done that.
Are you kidding me?
He should have known.
Well, I got the wax paper off the best I could. I'm gonna get myself a clean sheet.
This isn't your best rodeo. I mean, your first rodeo.
Go ahead and we'll melt her down again. It's just a sign of how my day's been going, guys.
Yeah, I
Drop me
told
some
you, it's
signs
pushing
of
through.
support in the comments, please.
I should have. Oh, I feel so bad. I gotta go back and watch the video and leave something in the comment. I've been there. Yeah, he was just trying to push through and get the video done at this point. I've been there. You set everything up with high hopes. The camera gets set up. You know exactly what you're about to shoot. Everything's going fine with the wash, but everything outside of that is going horrible. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna try and do this a little bit lighter, a little more gentle.
That's not gonna make
Should not be that difficult. We're pressing hash here, people. It's not rocket science.
Pressing hash, people.
You know he's had it at that point. And you should be able to roll it into a ball. But this is pretty much the process, guys.
So, yeah, Uncle Curly on your Instagram and Facebook on how to press sift. Okay. Check out your do-over. Yeah, check out your Instagram and your Facebook, and you got videos on pressing, sifting, everything to do with hash. Okay, thank you. Information source, good to know.
This is where you're trying to get down to. Some people might even roll it again. Oh, and my paper is gonna stick again. I'm gonna go nuts. I'm gonna go crazy. Cool. No, okay, we got it unstuck from the paper. So I'm not gonna press my luck. And I'm gonna roll it like a ball right now and call it good. And you can see the more shine that it has, probably the better quality it's gonna be. This looks really nice. You can kind of tell compared to the other. This is too grainy to roll into a ball. And so now I'm gonna carry on with my in-between hash grades and see how those turn out. Hopefully I gave you good enough directions and some tips to get to a finished product there, but big part about this part is really just drying your hash chips and making sure they're dry before you press them into your final product. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is B from B's Bees.
Good to know.
Hey, don't forget, save the bees. Oh yeah, save those bees.
I like, that was good. I definitely liked. Hold on, I gotta hit the music back up. My bad. That's it right here. Okay. And we on. Oh. There we go, my bad. I forgot my phone was right here. I don't know why I'm looking at the screen. Well, yeah, I was just trying to get everything moved along. That was the first step in everything that we're going to watch. Next, we're going to watch people pressing out some rosin. Hold on, give me one moment. I got to use the restroom extremely bad. My eyeballs are swimming. But I'm going to go ahead and set the video up real quick for you, so we can get started, comment on that, and proceed, because I know I'm like 45 minutes late. I went to the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was BSing very hard. My bad. Okay, get the video ready. Okay, there we go. Cool, I'm struggling. Yeah, so we're going to check out some rosin. This one is kind of up my alley. I've never tried this before. I need to get the bags, but this is the method that I'm going to try. Let me see. Let me just make sure. Yes, this is the method that I'm going to try. Pretty much.
It up. We're having fun. We got a hair straightener right in front of us. We have the Nug Smasher Mini. We have the Nug Smasher Mini. We're gonna do a little comparison for you guys, since a lot of you out.
Hold on, give me one moment, and I'll be right back. What? Okay, there we go. Now to get rid of me and video. Play.
out there are saying that you'd prefer to press rosin on a hair straightener. We're gonna do about a 0.8 gram in each of them, see which yields higher, see which works better, see which works faster. So we're gonna do that for you right now. We got our scale here. We're gonna scale out about 0.8.
You know you got a scale right there.
We got Jungle Cake, courtesy of Nug Smasher Grower. Be sure to follow him on Instagram.
That's
Our medicated 420 creations as well. That's pretty good. All right, we got about 0.76 here. We'll go ahead and start with the hair straightener since all you out there seem to prefer that method. We get shit tons of comments all fucking day about it. Let's start with this hair straightener. Got a rag here just because it's a little hot. We got this set to 210 degrees. Let's go ahead and press on it. All right, we'll go about 90 seconds like this.
$45 seconds in?
I guess, yeah, about 45.
You see anything happening?
Not so far.
How big was that bud you put in there?
0.76.
Oh yeah, fuck it. Hair straighters.
So, a lot to unpack here. Okay, so this dude, I'm guessing is what, about 6'4", 240. I'm bad with weight, but he's a big dude. So him pressing on this, is that like 1,000 pounds of pressure or something like that? Him putting all his upper body weight. I'm guessing maybe he's got his legs and gravity into it. So I'm wondering how he compares to the Nug Smasher. But I'm wondering how possible this could be. Yeah, I only weigh like what, 150, 5'11". I don't know if I'm gonna get the same results as this dude. But I'm gonna definitely be trying this the next time. First I gotta get the bags, sift everything out, and get it ready to press everything out. I got the perfect hair dryer for this though, definitely. Don't even smoke flower anymore. Put it in the volcano. Okay. Really? I do like the way I feel after taking dabs. I really, really do. But I really like smoking. That's the problem. I guess that's why flower stays around, to be quite honest. Oh, that's not bad.
This shit sucks.
Should be it. Let's see what you got.
Let's check this out.
That's not bad at all. I keep forgetting this is here. The check's in my hand. Okay, yeah, let's see his result.
So we got a little bit of rosin there. Now we'll go ahead and try on the mini.
So hold on, he's doing a comparison. I thought he was just going to do a demo, a one shot, show you what he got. Seems like he's going a little harder than that. He's going to, I guess this is a side-by-side. But I think he did a pretty good job. I guess the proof is going to be in the pudding, really. Okay.
0.73.
Close enough.
Yeah.
A little smaller.
We'll go a little smaller on the mini.
Okay.
I'll probably still get more out of it. I am confident. I hope I should be.
Really? So is this like the Chinese press, about this size? I wonder if they're going to get a good up close. Yeah, I need a better camera. Okay. Because this is the other part I didn't really necessarily understand. I've seen a few with I guess a slide or a chute, for lack of a better term, but they have the paper out there so it can just trail down. Some of the I guess what squeezes out is pretty significant. Sometimes it gets to like 4 to 5 inches long coming out of the press. So yeah, I'm very curious about the loading part. Oh, okay, so that's what that
Let that sit for about 90 seconds as well.
Yeah, time and pressure. Okay, that's what I thought. So, okay, that's a hand press. Okay. It's not using air compression, because that was another thing that kind of scared me about it. I didn't know it was necessarily manual, like a car jack.
Still coming out a little bit. All right. I think that was about 90.
I guess.
Go ahead and take that out.
What would you want ideally? Like, I'm guessing if a 2-inch press is like what each notch in your finger is like an inch. So to my knuckle would be about 4 inches. What would you want about like 5, 6 inches for a press? I really don't know. I'm curious, but 2 inches seems very small to me. That's too personal of a pizza. Sheesh. Okay, well, let's see some results. Whoa.
All right, so.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, so this is the Nug Smasher Mini.
Okay.
And this is the hair straightener. You also have some leftover material that got mixed in with the rosin.
Okay,
So
okay. I think I get it now. So that's all the part that you scrape everything with the scraper and get it off the paper and turn it into that little ball. Okay. Because I've usually just seen people who got like the sheet of paper and they'll just start ripping pieces off the little sheet and smoking it. So I wasn't really sure. But okay, I think I kind of understand at this point.
we'll get these both collected up.
It looks like dental tools basically to me, or like some tattoo crap. But all the little scrapers and metal pieces and jars, okay, it's starting to make a little bit of sense from that point. I saw it spread out. I only really was thinking about it coming out in a trail. But it's starting to, the wheels are turning a little bit and I'm starting to get it.
And scale them out for you. Get rid of that plant material.
Okay.
So you can see the hair straightener. This happens as you're smashing down, and what that does is it actually grinds up your bud. And what that'll do is you'll find a lot more plant material left over in your rosin. So we'll remove that.
Oh, screw that.
And I'm having trouble getting this up.
Okay. Now I see why you want to go for the just a straight up nug smasher. Because to be quite honest, I figure if you're doing that, you pretty much starting all over again. Huh? What'd I do wrong? Web page is music, right? Oh, that's right. My bad. I gotta turn it off the other way. But yeah, he's speeding it up, but he's probably about to spend 10, 15 minutes taking all that plant material out of there. So it was much better to go ahead and get that press and use that. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily juices worth the squeeze. So maybe you're right about the Chinese press from Amazon. 5-inch plate. Okay, 5-inch. Yeah, that's what I would figure. You get something, you could put enough in to make it substantial to where you don't have to scrape that crap out. Because now that I think about it, yeah, the flat iron I'm talking about, I guess, is like a 3-inch plate. That isn't that great. So, okay, I'll look into it. You're right, 300 isn't that bad to do that. I'm just, it's a lot to take on, I guess, all at once. All I need is flour and paper and fire, and I'm good. And this is a little bit more work. I think making the edibles and things, making hash, kind of helped me to ease into this a little bit better, but it's still like very intimidating to me. So, okay, that's why I did that. All right, now I got you.
Super sticky.
Yeah,
what I have here is my collection plate. It's a little bit colder, and what that does is it makes your rosin a little shattery, a little bit more shattery, and makes it easier to get collected up.
That's the other thing. You need a lot of utensils. That seems a bit much. Yeah, the cold plate, I forgot about that.
All right, so we collected up. We're gonna go ahead and get that scaled out for you. See what we got out of that 0.76 grams. So here's what we got from the hair straightener. Super fire bud, so I mean, color looks good. So now we have the Nug Smash.
That was so tiny. But okay, I gotta think about it's concentrate of concentrate of concentrate. So okay, yeah, it will be about that end results. I guess a 1/2 ounce of flour turning into what, 4 grams or so, or 5 grams of hash, and then turning that into what, 1/2 gram of rosin. It takes like 10 minutes. Okay, so you're right. On your Instagram and Facebook, I'm sure you go through that process as well on Curly. Okay. Okay.
Smasher Mini
Yeah,
rosin. We're gonna get that collected up. Boom, no plant material.
Okay. Gonna weigh that
so
out.
We're gonna go ahead and scale out the Nug Smasher Mini rosin. For that, we used 0.73 grams of flour, and as you remember, with the hair straightener, we actually used 0.76. So we should have got more back from the hair straightener. Just speaking off of how much flour we used.
Okay, I get you. Which I would expect. You can't beat a machine.
All right. As we thought.
It's got a physical advantage over you. It's using science against you.
So with the Nug Smasher Mini, we actually got 22% back, which is great.
Okay.
You know, we used great flour, and all right, and with the hair straightener, we only got back 13%. So what we're gonna do now is take the bud that we smashed with the hair straightener and see if anything's left inside using the Nug Smasher Mini, because there must be.
I am curious to know, and I'm going to say yes.
I get it. All right, so we're back in the Mini with the bud that we smashed with the hair straightener. We're going to see if anything, more is left. Immediately, right off the bat, it's coming out the front.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was definitely something in there right off the bat.
That's hilarious.
So as I said a minute ago, I mean, you're losing, like, what was that? That was a difference of about 9%. So I mean, getting 13% back as opposed to 22%, you're getting about half back from your bud when you actually use a hair straightener. And I mean, imagine if you were pressing ounces or more flour, you'd be losing rosin time and time again, and that just means losing money.
Okay. And
So, yeah. Definitely got some back, and also no plant material, you know, left in the rosin like we did with the hair straightener.
So I wonder, because I'm going to consider this a cheat, if he adds the stuff that came out from the Nug Smasher with the stuff he hand pressed, I'm thinking he's going to have more than what the Nug Smasher did by itself. Oh, yeah.
So we'll get this collected up and see, I mean, how much we're missing out on from using the hair straightener.
You not beat it.
One's made for hair and the other one's made for rosin.
I mean, even if you're just a consumer, I mean, taking a couple dabs a week, just think of, I mean, how many dabs you're losing, how much, you know, money you could be saving over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you didn't have to take out the flour material either, I'm guessing.
So we just finished collecting up the rosin we got from that repress. We'll go ahead and get that scaled out and see, I mean, how much rosin you were missing out on, or we were.
Whoa.
That's from the repress. Is that accurate?
Is that accurate?
All right, so this is what we got back from the repress using the Nug Smasher Mini, and I mean, it was damn near beating the original press with the hair straightener. So, I mean, think of all the dabs you could be saving, think of all the money you could be saving, just investing in a quality heat.
So I think it did. It did beat it. I was just thinking it was going to equal. I'm just going to say it did equal it. But he said it's about, you know, he can right off with eyesight tell it's the same thing. Man.
Press like the Nug Smasher Mini.
All right, as you can see, this was from the original press with the Nug Smasher Mini, which gave us back 22%. This was the original smash from the hair straightener. And this is the bud. And that gave us back about 13%. And then this was the repress.
About the same thing he's
on the Nug Smasher Mini, where we got back 0.10 on a repress.
Hey guys, make sure you check us out at nugsmasher.com to check out all of our awesome products. We also have tons of great information on our site, including calculator tools and terp files. Be sure to check us out there at nugsmasher.com.
Thank you. And I was trying to beat it, and I didn't. I wasn't getting it. I just wasn't quick enough on the draw. But that was interesting. And I started to, especially your encouraging words. Let me not leave that part out. I'd be lying. But that does make me... Okay, cool. Oh shoot, I don't feel like reading that article. Oh, with your help, your encouragement, it kind of all makes sense. All the times I see the tools there, I'm like, wow, this is quite a bit of utensils just to smoke and get high. So I guess I've looked at it as an obstacle and not really something to try and get into. But I've had a few dabs, and yeah, it takes you off this planet. It's definitely a whole nother level from hash. So it speaks to me. You're right about that. Yeah, I'm gonna roll this up right here. Glass tip, King Palm. I just have to stuff it up, and we'll see. And in that time, I'm gonna go ahead and cue up the other video that we were gonna watch about rosin. And I guess I should fire this up too. Who am I kidding? Yeah, I actually like this beat quite a bit. Let's go ahead and so try this out. Thank you. Little glass tip. All we gotta do is stuff it up. And a video that we about to pick is there's another rosin video. It's another rosin video. I just wanted to kind of be thorough. And I think we get to make fun of the dude who's doing the video, so I think everybody will be okay with it. Okay, cool. Yeah, everything's ready to go. All right, cool. So we stuffed this bad boy up. And I think this is just a DIY video. I don't think this is necessarily a like nug smasher or nobody like that. Jeez. Can't get this bad boy open. Oh my God. Am I doing something wrong? Let me go to the video and I'll figure this out during that time. No need to slow you.
How to make rosin at home using just a hair straightener. I have two different kinds of hair straighteners to show you a good kind and a bad kind. You want a blade that is about 2 inches wide if possible. Here's a better one that I've ordered from Amazon.
Wow. That hurt.
See, as you can see here, the blade is much wider on this one. I'll be pressing some Kush from Stash Club. All you need is a hair straightener, parchment paper, and your bud. That's simple. So I like to cut the parchment paper into a rectangle and then fold it in half in the middle to create a square. Make sure that they are larger than the width of your hair straightener so that they can fit inside. You can find the link for this hair straightener in the description below. It's cheap on Amazon and I recommend for this use. So this one has a digital temperature reading. So you're gonna want to set that at its lowest setting, 120 Celsius. This hair straightener is garbage, I'm not even gonna use it. Here's the Kush. You just squeeze this by hand into a small nug, like so. Or you can purchase what's called a pre-press.
Don't need that. Oops.
As you can see, it's been turned into a small marijuana puck. Place it into your parchment paper and place it into the middle of your hair straightener. Careful not to burn yourself. I'm using an oven mitt here to compress it.
Oven mitt.
And then just press down. You'll know you're doing it right when you start to hear some steam escaping.
Oh shoot, okay. Steam escape.
All right, when it's done, we've got some rosin. And go ahead and give this same nug a second squeeze here. My next video is going to be showing you how to convert this hair straightener into a proper press, all for under $100. If you want to check that video out, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. So here I have a marble plate that I keep in the fridge. Keeps it nice and cold and makes it a lot easier to scrape up rosin. Simply place your rosin on a cooled surface and it comes right off. It's like scraping a breeze.
You missed that last little audio part. Darn.
I'm going to have 0.05 grams of rosin That was not the best yield, but this was done with a cheap hair straightener.
Exactly. That wasn't bad, man. That was not bad. I thought that was going to be a little bit longer than that. My bad. My bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, for a second, I thought that music was mine. Dang. So just stuffing this bad boy up. And that wasn't bad. He said he's gonna make his own press out of the hair dryer itself. So I'm guessing he's gonna take it apart and do some robotics with it. That should be interesting. And that's about it for the rosin. I believe I was gonna go into the article about California pesticides. But I think it's no surprise, realistically, that when it comes to industrial cannabis and commercial cannabis, people will cut corners. And I think that's kind of the name of the game. Come on, baby, stuff it up. So I'm wondering, oh yeah, I did have some questions here to ask you. I know it's late in the game and all, but if you could smoke with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be? And that's a tough one for me. That's a tough one. Let me think about that. Let me think about that. Probably Redman, to be quite honest. How about y'all? Oh shoot. That's a horrible waste. Yeah, I'm guessing so. What was that, 13% what that dude got with the Nug Smasher from the first video? So I'm just guessing that guy was about my body type. And yeah, I'm guessing the results might even have been 11%. So yeah, I'm already convinced. I'm already convinced with the Smasher. Oh, there we go. I was making more progress than I thought. Yeah, making more progress than I thought. Pretty happy. I want to try this bad boy out and see how it is. Keep stuffing to the top. Give it all you got. My bad. Come on, baby. I don't want to leave all that space for no reasons. There we go. Stuff the capacity. I can just roll stuff it. Good. Perfect. Perfect. Shouldn't do this. Okay, cool. No problems. I survived. This is actual glass? Okay. I'm very curious about this. And let me see. Let me try and set everything up real quick and get us a little light up. Get us in the mood for everything. Oh, nice. I like that you could actually see the smoke coming out the back. Kind of like a bong or a pipe or whatever. A bowl, excuse me. That was the word I was looking for. See, let me click on, do the, excuse me, I was about to cough. Don't want to cough in the mic. Oh yeah, the video. Let me just make sure everything's queued up. My dumb butt. I must have done something. Hold on. Let me just make sure I didn't put this up front. I think I erased it off my phone, to be quite honest. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty dumb like that. Yeah, it looks like I did. I think I did. Okay, so where we at? Okay, cool. So we'll just jump right into the second portion of, the third portion, excuse me, of everything. Okay, cool. Okay. My bad. We're just gonna go into the talk from Rooted Leaf. Pretty much an independent study was done on California commercial cannabis. There was over 40 different pesticides found in over 372 products tested.
I just like the sound of it.
Yeah, I like that. That's sweet. They're trying to get a third party regulates the regulations. Outside independent third party regulates California Cannabis, but they're having problems not only coming up with laws to make mandates to get rid of pesticides, but they're having problems enforcing it. And that was about it. Oh man, this is about the third time I coughed off of this. That's not a coincidence. That's what's about to happen. It's just busting me. Yeah, I don't really taste the wrap at all. And the glass filter is making it so I'm consistently getting the same level of smoke throughout. My mouth's trying to suck on this isn't pressing anything down. Almost like a shotgun or a plumber's joint. So let's go right into Nick from Rooted Leaf. He's like the most knowledgeable soil and plant person that I can think of on YouTube. He can talk for hours about any nutrient or process within a plant, how systems within the body of the plants. So he's going to be talking about carbon, the importance of it, how plants use it, how they derive it, all that other good stuff. He can speak a lot better than me. Yeah, I'm really liking this though. So we're about a minute 8, okay. Yeah, I'm really liking this though. Okay, so let's get right on into it. That's smart, okay. And right into go.
Guys are looking to acquire as much carbon as they possibly can. It's kind of the name of the game for them. And so if you understand plants well enough and plant physiology, you kind of eventually come to the realization like, hey, everything plants do revolves in some way, shape, or form around carbon, and more specifically, capturing carbon, chemically reducing it, storing it, reshaping it, retooling it, being able to repurpose it. put it into soluble forms, put it into insoluble forms, and so
And so not only is he very knowledgeable, but I like the passion that he talks with. He's very excited and can extrapolate his thoughts very well. He can describe exactly what he's saying. I think that's very impressive for the level and magnitude of the topics that he's talking about and the processes that he's talking about.
this dance that they do with carbon chemistry, I think, is unlike anything else. When we're talking about certain macronutrients, for example, like nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, so on and so forth. In reality, we're talking about a very small slice of what actually makes up plants. You know, if you take all of your macro and micronutrients, combine them, multiply that number by 5, you still have more carbon in the plant by and far. I mean, it's such a drastic difference that to say carbon is a macronutrient is kind of an understatement. I think it actually just requires us to look a little bit more differently at what nutrients actually are and what constitutes not only plant matter and biomass, but on the flip side, being able to develop a refined enough approach to look at how certain flavors of carbon result in healthier plants that are a little bit more resistant to environmental stressors. One of the biggest global problems in agriculture.
Hold on. He said different flavors of carbon, and that threw me off. Now, I'm guessing that's like an accident, him saying that. When he says flavors, I guess he's talking about to a plant, it would be different flavors. But I'm guessing realistically, he just means different forms of carbon so that the plant can extract different, I guess, different forms of it for different uses. That's what I'm trying to say. See, he's a lot better at this than I am.
At large, is that biotic and abiotic stressors reduce the global yields of food by around 50% every single year. I mean, that's 1 out of every 2 plates of food that could be used to feed somebody. And the idea, again, is that...
Okay, he's giving his spiel on feeding people. But I forgot, this is a mashup clip that I made. I believe first this is Growing with Fishes podcast. Then he's going to scoot over to the Growcast. And then we're going to follow it up with him on the Future Cannabis Project.
If you understand plant physiology well enough, at a certain point, it comes back to like carbon. And so instead of focusing on feeding nitrogen and phosphorus, potassium, so on and so forth, sort of in a system that's devoid of carbon, what we're doing is we're plugging carbon in the exact same ways that plants and microbes in the soil and fungi in the soil would do these things naturally. So there's a little bit of further qualification about what exactly constitutes carbon-based nutrients. In my perspective, one of the points
he's coming in hot a little bit
is reversing a thermodynamic equilibrium that is otherwise a physical constraint placed on plants, regardless of if you're growing with purely salt-based fertilizer, or on the flip side, even if you're growing with an organic input. I think that in both cases, the conversation around
I hope that's a little
energy
bit better.
Transfer and maintaining a thermodynamic equilibrium needs to be examined in greater context. I love that discussion, particularly as it revolves to the organic side, because it means we get to include microbes and fungi in the process of plants accessing nutrients and making it easier for plants so that the thermodynamic draw is not so great on them. But on the flip side,
okay, that was a lot to take in. But I think he's talking about at this point not just necessarily what the plants are uptaking, but how they're actually obtaining what they're uptaking. So he's talking about, I guess, the rhizosphere, the soil food web interacting, breaking different elements down and bringing different versions of different elements, different forms of nitrogen, different forms of carbon, so on and so forth. There's about, I say, 3 to 4 different forms of each nutrient that plants uses. So overall, that would be somewhere around like 200 nutrients that a plant will use, 300 different forms of nutrients that plants use. So it's not just nitrogen, it's not just phosphorus, like what form and what way is it getting it? And I think that's like kind of the downfall of biochar. There's a lot of theory in there, and practicality might not necessarily happen for everyone. But ideally, that's trying to add more carbon into the soil, which is kind of like he's saying, if you added everything up that a plant is going to be structurally, you could multiply that by 5 and it would still be less than how much carbon would be in that plant.
There's also some beautiful mechanics, so to speak, with the salt-based approach, which is that we can look very specifically at things like nitrate reduction, sulfate reduction, and really quantify like what exactly does this ask the plant to do in terms of its reduction power and spending energy to actually access those nutrients. So it's one of the topics I hope we can frame the perspective at large, because I think it's also one of the things that, you know, us being a manufacturer of carbon-based fertilizers and carbon-based nutrients, I think it's one of the things that sets us apart from any of the other brands of, you know, organic or conventional, or maybe even something like a more traditional humic acid based product line or fulvic acid based product line. There are some distinct differences, and again, that's going to come down to thermodynamic equilibrium. So looking forward to it for sure.
You want to tell us a little bit about that, since you seem like you're
this is pretty decent
to tell us about it. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about ferments after that, because that's something that I definitely want at some point want to get to you about, because it's something I'm very passionate about, and I've done a lot of work around lots of different types of plant isolated ferments, or, you know, different specific plant ferments, and I'd love to jam out on a little bit later on. But tell us about the carbon component that you're just talking about.
So both of these people are really big on like natural farming or Korean natural farming. Like, what did I hear? It's just natural farming to the rest of the world. It's Korean natural farming to us in America. But it uses a lot of ferments and vinegars to adjust pH, help to break material down, helps to, help pH within plants, within the soil, and within I guess the environment with the plants. Lactobacillus is very huge. Fermented plant juice, fermented fruit juice, all of that is kind of in a form that a plant is readily available to break down. The microbes are readily available to break it down and intake it. So they're both on kind of the same line. What he is probably missing is the extra boost of carbon, which this would be, I started out as far as time goes, it's like almost a timeline. This is about, I say, 2 years old. The next video is about, this will be about 3 years old. The next video is 2 years old. And the final video that we'll be watching is 1 year old. But you get to hear different points and him refining his act and getting to the best parts of how you can improve your garden instantly without him just pushing a product, really. He's giving you at-home solutions you can do, and he sells a product, which is something I really appreciate.
Yeah, you know, the idea is basically with this thermodynamic equilibrium, it's like the general premise is actually pretty easy to understand. There's kind of two things I think we should point out first and foremost, before we kind of launch into the mechanics, because if there's no connective tissue for people to understand why this stuff is significant, maybe it's going to be lost on people. It's not really going to make as much sense as I hope it will. So let me first qualify the importance of this by saying that all of the terpenes and all of the cannabinoids that your plants are capable of producing clock in between 80 and 90% carbon by weight. And so if you get test results back that indicate you have above 30% cannabinoids and above 5% terpenes on your dry flower, that's a really high quality product right there. It's going to be very therapeutic, and it's going to be in high demand on the recreational markets too.
And he's basically saying those inputs are due to an increase in the uptake of carbon. And it's got to be the uptake, not just in theory. And I think realistically, that's why people ask for soil tests, so you can actually know what's in your garden, so you can amend it one way or the other without just adding and adding and adding. And maybe you'll get to a point where there's actually a nutrient lockout or something like that. Now, I figure with using, especially with the vinegars and the ferments of natural farming, that also helps to flocculate the soil, like aerate it, make it soft and like spongy, give it a body. And carbon is due to it. That's really what you're trying to do. That's what everything basically, I guess, breaks down to in theory. Leaves, the grass clippings, everything is the addition of carbon is what you're trying to do. Like composting is adding carbon, and I'm guessing realistically that's probably one of the main benefits you get out of that, more so than the actual nutrient benefit out of it. And that's something interesting that he's the only one that I hear talk about that point. So it's very interesting that he'll even deep dive into something that seems almost that trivial.
But, you know, when you look at those lab results, what you really should do is convert all of the compounds that you see, like the THCs and the CBDs and all of the other cannabinoids, convert those into carbon and take the weight. Maybe let's say somebody handed you a pound of this flower that, let's just say hypothetically on average tested above 30% cannabinoids and above 5% terpenes. All of the mono and sesquiterpenes are 90%-ish carbon, and all of your cannabinoids are 80-ish%. And so if you do the math far enough, you realize like, hey, 33% of this flower, if I give you a pound of it, 1/3 of that pound is just pure carbon. It's just one element, you know? And so there's something to be said there in the sense that if we can feed the plants with the correct form of carbon, maybe we can increase the throughput of some of these therapeutic compounds and some of the, you know, compounds that have
switch it up,
pharmacological properties to them, besides just cannabis. I'm talking about other crops, turmeric, ginger, ashwagandha, plants I'm a big fan of overall. And so the idea basically is that if we can supplement more carbon, we're going to get better performance. Well, then the question is, how do we supplement more carbon? So this is kind of where the conversation has to shift a little bit, and we have to spend a day in the life of a plant, right? So plants basically, as they take in light energy, that's considered work. They're taking in light energy and they're doing a certain type of work.
So, okay. This is what I'm thinking, like, you know, it's got to be, like compost has got to be something huge. What up? Think Tech, what up, what up, what up? Yeah, I'm glad y'all made it. I'm glad y'all stayed. I was having some 45-minute technical difficulties. But he's about to really drop some truth bombs. This is like probably a 50-minute mega mix of just him going in on carbon. But compost, I'm sure, is a huge proponent. And then earthworms, vermicompost. There's definitely plenty of ways to get carbon into the ground. The top layer of like mulching, things like that. The chop and drop method, that's kind of the point of that, straw on top. So there's plenty of ways all that stuff breaks down into carbon. And, you know, he's saying like 70%, 80% of the plant structure is carbon. So it's definitely going to be vital. And that's what he's saying, the terpenes and the aromas and things are like basically carbon. The glands are mostly carbon. So if you want to get the most expression, more carbon is the way to go. Maybe more so than going into a micronutrient or macronutrient. He's a proponent of saying that carbon is the most vital element that plants want in front of the NPK.
Work to convert that light energy into chemical energy. And for the purpose of our discussion, let's maybe refer to that chemical energy as reduction power. And think about this reduction power like a currency. When you go to the store and you want to buy yourself, let's say you have $20. You can't just buy whatever you want. You have to figure out what exactly you're going to spend that $20 on. And now imagine if you walk into the store and you say, I have a plan in place. I need to make 7 sandwiches for this week. You know, your sandwich has a certain ratio of bread to meat to cheese and all this stuff, and you know that going in to the store. You have $20 to spend, and you have a particular assortment of ingredients that you're looking for to get in, let's say, a particular ratio, right? Now, ideally, you're going to be able to go to the store and you're going to get exactly what you need.
Okay, so this is something, I'm going to skip through this a little bit, but this is something Ellen Ingram, the Soil Food Web lady, she summarized it better. Just going into a cookie store and going into a bakery and being able to get the pastry that you want, whether it's a donut, cake, a cookie. So that's basically what he's explaining now. The more abundance of elements, nutrients, natural plant material that you have out there, the more you will turn it into a bakery that has everything. So he's gonna waste a little time on that. Come on. Be a good mix. Let's see.
So the plants are getting this light energy, and they need to disperse that light energy down these chemical reduction pathways. Now they want to snatch CO2 out of the air and use that to chemically reduce carbon into sugars, and then use those sugars as a base material to make other things. You know, those other things can participate in organic acid cycles, or they can be used to feed microbes and things like that in the soil. The point is that plants have a form of carbon that represents a sort of a transitory phase. You know, the plants are going to use it for one purpose or another.
Okay, so the carbon, the CO2 that it pulls out of the air, it uses that to break elements down. Okay, so I'm guessing there's also a portion in the rhizosphere, the roots, that are pulling out carbon from the soil for structure purposes. And yeah, I'm curious. I'm guessing there's a third.
And the higher the sugar
there's
load
3 systems
within the plants, you could say that maybe they're, you know, photosynthesizing very effectively. They're capturing a lot of carbon, you know?
Okay.
So part of that reduction power, besides going towards CO2, goes towards assimilating nitrates. And nitrates have to be fully reduced into ammoniacal forms of nitrogen, and then those have to get plugged in.
Okay. Ammoniacal is in ammonia. So that makes a lot of sense, because that's actually kind of where the abundance of ammonia came from, them being able to pull nitrogen out of the air. So, okay, that's what he's talking about. It's got to be in that form in order for plants to be able to even absorb it. Okay, that's good to know.
To amino acids. And it just so happens that those amino acids actually have to be joined by an organic acid residue. And so it makes sense then that for plants, the reduction of nitrogen and the reduction of carbon actually are hardwired together. Because
I'll be right back again. My bad. My eyeballs are floating again.
An organic acid on the back end to plug into that. And where does the organic acid come from? It comes from reducing the carbon. And so plants are, again, just like when you go to the store and you're paying attention to how many slices of bread you're getting for every single other ingredient in that sandwich, plants are also kind of meticulous like that. They would like for certain things to exist in particular ratios, you know? So the more carbon they can acquire, overall, the greater their, you know, spending power becomes, overall their reduction power. And I'm talking about for very specific flavors of carbon. You know, think about it like the currencies of carbon. There are certain currencies that plants produce of carbon that are like universal currencies. They can kind of be, the beauty of them is that they can be used for quite literally anything the plant does. It's a fundamental component of every single pathway. It's like at a primary layer of plant metabolism. And so if you learn how to work with those flavors of carbon, I think that you can supplement that to the plants and watch the performance overall increase. But this is significantly different than doing something like loading the plants with CO2 or NO3 or SO4, because all of those elements have the same common problem, which is the oxygen there. And plants don't like that oxygen there. They want to break it off. If you look at a chemical formula or molecular formula for any monoterpene, you'll find it's been fully reduced. There's only hydrogen, there's no oxygen anymore, because it initially came from CO2 in the air. It was fully oxidized, and then it got converted to being fully reduced. And redox chemistry defines basically all of life. It even defines acid-based chemistry. So things like pH, for instance, kind of get factored in conjunction with reduction and oxidation reactions overall. So the two are rather inseparable. But
My bad. I hurt myself coming on re-entry. So this dude is a super powerhouse of plant knowledge, and it's very impressive to me. Once I started trying to edit this mega mix, I was fascinated on just how smart he was. I remember it's like, man, I've listened to him so much. What's my man, Clankum Scoot from Builder Soil fame, Jeremy from Builder Soil. He's the one who's pretty much the connect for Builder Soil, or was at least. And Lane Ingram, like Matt Powers, I've listened to them so much. I think I've heard everything I can pretty much tolerate about plants and nutrients and so on and so forth. So basically, getting carbon into the soil, like composting, basically is a good way to go. In-place composting, thermal composting, however you want to get it done. Ferments, vinegars, you should be good to go. Earthworms, vermicompost. I keep saying earthworms. I just mean worms. Composting worms, because there's a difference. And that will help to ensure that you're getting the carbon that you need. Like, also, I forgot, in a form that plants can readily use.
Anyways, like I was saying, when plants are given the task of having to spend chemical currency, this is the thermodynamic equilibrium that I'm talking about. For guys that are using salt-based fertilizers, they're asking their plants to spend a huge amount of that chemical reduction power. And they can afford that reduction power by shining a very high light intensity on the plants, by having a lot of really good air conditioning and dehumidification to keep the VPD in the perfect spot, and then eventually figuring out the correct ratios for the proper mineral load. And then on the flip side, so to back up one step, you'll never solve that thermodynamic equation. It's always going to be an equilibrium that you just keep pushing higher and higher, and it's always going to be in the disadvantage or disfavor to the plant.
So I wonder, what Synganics? I wonder if that helps to kind of take the load off of what he's talking about right there. You can kind of overload it with, I guess, bottled nutrients or chemical fertilizers. You can get like what's that, like a salt, too high of salts. And I wonder if the organic part of the Synganics helps to buffer that and give you more of an even delivery system, I suppose.
Plant has to spend more in conjunction or in relation to how much it's going to access. And you can never really push the plants past a certain efficiency in that kind of example. On the flip side, when we're talking about something more organic based, let's say we're talking about a living soil that has diverse microbial population and fungal population.
This for us.
It's not that the reduction power isn't there or that it's not required. It's that it gets distributed to the microbes which participate in conjunction with the plants. The plant.
Okay, that was the answer I was just asking. So the Synganics does help. It doesn't put all the load of just the plant doing it. The more organics, they help in, so the plant doesn't have to lift as much. Okay, team lifting. Makes sense.
Use the reduction
so
power.
Synganics does help.
Rhizobia and legumes are a great example of something like this. Nitrogen costs a lot of chemical currency to process. It doesn't matter what kind of organism you are. Some organisms do it very efficiently. Other organisms like plants have to spend approximately 25, let's say up to 30% of the overall energy that they gain throughout the day assimilating nitrogen, and it's more specifically the chemical reduction of nitrogen. And so of course there are particular microbes in the soil that have evolved over time.
And he was saying that the CO2 in the air is what plants use to basically break materials down. So that would make sense why CO2 doesn't necessarily translate into helping plants grow. It can help them take in light intensity a little bit better, which in theory should help them grow more, but it doesn't necessarily translate the way you think, especially for the cost. But that's because they're spending that, I guess, air form, breaking different materials down, and he's saying it's primarily nitrogen, 25 to 30% of it.
To take that burden off of the plants, they make it easier because their tools in their toolkit happen to do a slightly better job, and they don't require such a large energy input. And so the plants are thinking, well, it costs you less than it costs me to process the nitrate. And you can't access carbon because you can't photosynthesize, Mr. Microbe or Mr. Fungi. But I, as the plant, can, and I actually do a really good job of photosynthesizing because I have these solar panels out here that happen to take light energy and suck in carbon dioxide. So why don't I make the sugars, because it's easy for me, and I'll pass that to you, and you can help me with this whole nitrogen thing. Maybe take some of the sugars, feed yourself, feed your wife and kids, feed the dog. It doesn't
Feed your
matter,
wife and kids, feed
and
your
then
wife
convert some of the
and
nitrogen
kids.
and pass it back to me, the plant. And that's kind of what happens, you know, in just, it's a lot more specific than that. I don't think the microbes.
Okay. So at this point, I'm gonna go on to the next one. That was a good segue for that. That was smart. We can keep going with this one, but there's like 2 more to go. Yeah, it is very informative. And that was kind of an interesting story too, I thought. Yeah, that was real interesting. Yeah, we're going to the next segment because he's still kind of raw at this one, and you can tell how long it took to get to that. So let's see where we at, baby. Hold on. Okay, where we at, baby? Okay, somewhere around here.
Benefits in agriculture, I think, is one of the things that we're looking to achieve, certainly in the long term.
A little bit of background on yourself, and then more importantly, Rooted Leaf. What caused you to create Rooted Leaf, and what your mission is for Rooted Leaf?
Yeah, so me personally, I have a background in chemistry that is pretty expansive. It spans fermentation chemistry initially, because in my early 20s, I had this idea of starting a kombucha brewery. And one of the things I started to experiment with was, you know, different steps in the fermentation process using different substrates, and finding that the results on the back end post-fermentation were drastically different. And so this kind of inspired me to look a little bit more closely at ingredients that people would otherwise assume are just interchangeable, but in reality, they have a big impact on the final product on the back end. So
yeah, so he's like a chemical nerd. And I understand that there's a difference in beer, like there's a different result you get out of wheat grain, rye grain, and barley, which is the typical grain that you use. But yeah, it's a craft to using all of them. So it's fascinating that he took the different results he was getting from making kombucha and translated that into plants.
So that kind of carried me forward for a couple of years through fermentation chemistry. And then I got involved with a little bit more industrial chemistry. So I was doing things like manufacturing surfactants, and I was formulating degreasing compounds, you know, used at truck washes and car washes and things like that. So I had a good understanding of, you know, chelation chemistry, surfactant chemistry. I kind of got into the nitty-gritty details, even looking at three-dimensional structures of the actual surfactant molecules and the individual micelles that are made. And all of this stuff is very important, you know, just as like one quick example, if you want to create a type of spray to apply like a cleaning solution, it makes sense to pay attention to how homogeneous are those little air bubbles, because everybody likes the soaps and the suds, you know, but the actual shape is very important. And so if you do it right, you can create something that, you know, whose chemical properties also kind of dovetail in with the physical side of cleaning things, you know, scrubbing, for example, using high pressure hoses.
Let me kind of scoot along
and some products that were kind of put together based on the understanding that cannabis plants operate in a very, very specific and nuanced way, much like these, as I mentioned earlier, the bubbles and surfactants. You know, the particular shape and size is very important too. So it's not enough to just say, it's a soap and that's it. And it's not enough to say, it's a fertilizer and that's it. There's very, very nuanced details about how plants actually process nutrients that to me just wasn't being addressed in the market, particularly for a high value crop like cannabis. It seems like there's a lot of research and development that can be done in the sector of high value goods, because a lot of the farmers can kind of afford to play around with the latest and greatest technologies, and they have the ability baked into their business model to fine tune things that set them apart from their competitors. And for me, that was always nutrients being one of the more important things. You are what you eat.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to find a good point to stop at. I like the way he put that, though. He kind of did bring it around, even though it took him a while. But him basically realizing it's all about the systems that you use that really make the difference. And he's right. What's the thing? It's not necessarily like McDonald's and Domino's, and like I'll throw Subway in there. It's not that they had the best food, they had the best business model, though. That's what sets them apart to make millions where other people fail, like the mom and pops. It's the business model. So the structure of it. And that's what he's noticing. The structure of how things are done is what sets things apart. And so he's got something that I guess he's passionate about to show that he paid attention to detail. He can take that, extrapolate it to you in your garden, and prove that you're paying attention to detail from the results of your plants. Interesting.
Reap what you sow. Definitely what you put into your plants makes a big difference as far as the overall expression of possible outcomes. And for the past 3 years, that's kind of been our focus. Our bread and butter, by and large, has been to try to better understand what it is we're doing. And through conversations like this, it's a matter of removing our own ignorance and lack of understanding and gaining clarity on what it is that we see happening with these plants.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said it better myself, too. There's so much opportunity to learn because of all the money that's in this industry. That's why I've said that on this show time and time again, which is with the cash crop, hopefully we're going to learn all sorts of new things about agriculture in general and chemistry in general and all this stuff.
Okay, I forgot. That's Jordan River. This is the Growcast. This is on YouTube as well. The first video was Growing with Fishes podcast. They're also on YouTube. Like, all of this is on YouTube. Everything that I show you is on YouTube, so you can research it yourself.
So I'm very, very excited to dig in. I would like to kind of cue you up for this. You talk about, how you wanted to address the cannabis-specific needs and specifically aiming to produce more terpenes and cannabinoids and all those, flavonoids and all the goodies in there that we like in that trichome head.
So this is the second opportunity to kind of define this terminology. So, I shouldn't say terminology, to define his game plan. So let's see how he words it this time and see if we can notice a difference.
And I know that has a lot to do with carbon delivery. Now, we are in Nug Mashing May. We are talking about hash all month long. And man, that's what these hash makers are after. They're after a nice, high level of usually a wide variety of terpenes. And it seems to me like when you make sure that you're getting that carbon in there, whether you're supplementing in many different ways, which we'll get into, or humic acids or all this stuff, seems like carbon plays a big role in trichome farming. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. And this is maybe a good introduction for Rooted Leaf Agritech as well. We're pioneering this new field of fertilizers. It used to be that you would have traditional or conventional salt-based fertilizers, and then you would have organic-based fertilizers. And really, there's a new category that's being developed. We're certainly one of the leaders and one of the pioneers, but I think there's a lot of other folks in the same space that are doing good work. And the idea is that it's a carbon-based nutrient or a carbon-based fertilizer. And the reason that's so important is perhaps easiest for the cannabis farmers to understand relative to if you were growing something like tree fruit or strawberries or blueberries. You would still see the benefits of a carbon-based program, but the upside for cannabis farmers is that all of those monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes and even the cannabinoids themselves that accumulate inside of the trichome heads, those are all going to be roughly 80 to 90% carbon by weight. And so this is a very, very mechanical question here. It's a very mechanical operation. If you want more of
Oh, no,
something
you
that
cool,
is
Paul.
mostly
Thank you very
carbon
much for staying
by
this much
weight,
and
you're
putting up with
probably
all the
going to need
technical
more cargo.
difficulties.
And the best way to illustrate that would be to ask people to think,
Yeah,
well, if
have
you
a
see a
great day,
nitrogen
man. Thank you
deficiency
so
in your
much,
plants,
man.
your response to correct that nitrogen deficiency is to apply the thing that the plant is missing, as opposed to looking at the plant, realizing it's deficient in nitrogen, and then deciding for whatever reason that you're going to apply phosphorus,
Right?
or you're going to apply potassium or calcium or magnesium.
Okay. So he's pretty much saying at this point, yeah, Paul, thank you. And we about at 80% at this point. But he's basically saying that hold on, let me get this straight. Let me hear one more second.
None of those things really fit into the needs of the plant at that point.
Carbon-based, that a lot of deficiencies are probably more so started from a lack of carbon, more so than like a lack of nitrogen or a lack of phosphorus. That's what he's, I guess, saying. It starts with that, and then it starts to go into other deficiencies.
Point. And similarly enough, for cannabis.
Okay, how can I explain it? You notice pneumonia. Well, when it was the sniffles, that was the sign that, you know, you was going to get there. So that's the carbon. Like the sniffles is the carbon, and we don't really pay attention to that. But we notice the like, oh my God, my leaves are yellow and spotty, which is the pneumonia. So he's saying he's treating everything with carbon. And I kind of see the dual action of that. It's always going to be able to use the carbon, but we're using that in addition to whatever we think it could be. And that way you never really run into problems. You never get the pneumonia. Interesting theory.
It likes to take in a lot of carbon, and it needs to take in a lot of carbon in order to produce high concentrations of terpenes and cannabinoids. These are very high energy compounds that require a lot of energy coming into the system and a lot of availability of the substrate or the building blocks. This is why you have to shine very intense light on cannabis plants to get maximum productivity. It requires high energy and it requires a high carbon load. Okay. So historically, the way to supplement the carbon has always been in the form of CO2. And so now we're in this environment, or now we're in this market.
Okay, and we know from the last one that we don't need CO2. So I'm gonna skip a little ahead because it sounds like we're about to hear the same thing. And I actually, unfortunately, kind of have to wrap this up a little bit.
For maximum, transpiration efficiency, people like to kind of look at the VPD like it's the holy grail, even though there's more fudge factor, more plasticity baked in than you would get if you just simply Googled it. But
so true.
Still, the idea is pretty ubiquitous that everyone chose, by and large, to feed, carbon deplete nutrients into the roots and then shove a bunch of carbon in the form of a fully oxidized gas, a monomer no less, meaning that it just has a single atom of carbon. They just decided to shove that into the air without really paying attention to more specific nuances like, well, how do plants actually take in that CO2? What are they doing with it? How do they process it? How do they maintain, equilibriums in terms of energy coming in and energy going out? These are all things that are kind of still being explored. It's certainly on the cutting edge of, biochemistry and plant physiology. But I think we stumbled onto something, with the carbon-based approach that really allows us to remove what is otherwise a bottleneck in the operation. And as a result of removing that bottleneck, we see massive increases in the concentration of terpenes and cannabinoids overall. And it's simply because we're supplying the building blocks that plants depend on and that would otherwise be bottlenecks. They would be limiting factors. Plants have to spend time. It requires energy going into the system that takes away from the plant's ability to continue down that path. And so if we identify these steps that are rate limiting and we come in and we supplement the substrates, or we somehow remove that bottleneck, it seems like the throughput is significantly higher.
That is very, very interesting. I was able to sample some of your product, very impressed by it. And you can tell that there's just a bit of a difference in there when you load in the carbon. I do really quickly want to make sure that listeners know that Nick did create a code GROWCAST at rootedleaf.com. I wanted to make sure we didn't get too far into this episode before I drop that out there. You can find Nick's work at rootedleaf.com, and code GROWCAST saves you like 20% or something. Thank you for doing that, Nick. That was...
Yeah, I just left that in there just in case somebody wanted to try that. I think everybody in here is kind of more on their own thing. But just to give you the opportunity and to plug these guys, especially Nick from Rooted Leaf, he's a wealth of knowledge and he gives it out for free quite a bit on YouTube.
Really cool of you. He totally just volunteered to do that. Very, very cool of him.
Right.
So yeah, so the idea of, I want to dig in on a couple of things, you know, when you're dealing with the carbon that you're feeding, I see a lot of these products have something like carboxylic acid. Is that what you're using? Is it, can you extrapolate on this idea of one carbon molecule not being enough?
Yeah, and the idea is actually pretty simple and straightforward. If you look at monoterpenes, which are probably a good example for us to talk about because they're pretty low molecular weight, and monoterpenes kind of represent, I guess you could call like the lowest molecular weight dank sauce that people are looking for within the trichome heads. You know, I've never really heard of people talking about needing isoprene or hemiterpenes, and so we'll just start with monoterpenes. Mono meaning one. Kind of the basic idea is that there's 10 carbon atoms and there's 16 hydrogen atoms. And there's two things to point out in the chemical or the molecular formula for monoterpenes. The first is that we're dealing with 10 carbons, whereas in CO2, we're dealing with one carbon. And then the second thing to notice is that the H16 versus the O2, one is fully oxidized, the other is fully reduced. And this is going back to a very, very simple equilibrium that has to be maintained in all of nature. It's the balance between reduced and oxidized states or redox states. The best example I can give to people is if you want to throw yourself off that equilibrium, go ahead and take a really deep breath and hold it. Don't breathe out, because what you're going to start doing is building up the reducing equivalents. And what happens when you exhale and you inhale again is you're taking in more oxygen and you're oxidizing what is being reduced. And so this balance always, always, always occurs. Every breath you take in and every breath you release, your body's maintaining a balance between reduced and oxidized states of metabolism as a way of kind of maintaining equilibrium.
Okay, because it's like 3 cycles in the 3 systems in the plant going on: the phenum, xylem, the Calvin cycle, and I forgot the third one. But I'm guessing that's what he's talking about here, the third one, the balance between carbon and hydrogen within a plant. That's interesting. I just look at only NPK, so that's good to know that I need to kind of be looking at it more carbon-based even. The dank cells.
You know, the amount of energy coming in versus going out, either passively or actively through metabolic processes.
How much I got on this? Oh my goodness, he was gonna talk for a minute. Okay. Let me see where I'm at.
You know, nationally even, it's true that most of the models that are built out are closed loop air models, meaning that you seal a flowering space and you shove a bunch of gear in there, like you got your heat pump in the form of lights, and then you have your air conditioner because you need to cool the space. It's a sealed system. But then you're also watering the plants, so you need to dehumidify the space once that water has been transpired. And so we kind of set up this really interesting motor with components that effectively work against themselves simply in order to maintain the optimum balance for loading carbon into the plants.
Loading them into the air.
Yes,
right.
Yes, specifically in the air. And there's a lot of reasons why CO2 supplementation in the air has its inherent limits, and it's probably not the best way to do it. This is one of those things we'll kind of get into at large in the context of terpene and biosynthesis, or cannabinoid biosynthesis overall. But it's interesting for me watching the model that's been developed, noticing that, you know, most growers are feeding nutrients that contain no carbon, and they're expecting their plants to produce more carbon containing substances. And for me, it's always a thermodynamic equilibrium question. Is like, where are you getting that carbon from? And if you're not supplementing CO2 in the air, what else are you doing? You know, I've never met a grower, a professional or a hobbyist or a home grower that sealed up a flowering space only to drop the CO2 concentration,
right,
or even just to maintain atmospheric concentrations of CO2. They always do this with the specific intent of raising the CO2 concentrations.
But at some point, there's going to have to be some source of carbon. I get you. And even if you didn't have the supplemented CO2, you would still need just an ambient level of it. I understand. Okay.
And then keeping the temperature and humidity kind of in check to allow for maximum, you know, transpiration efficiency. People like to kind of look at the VPD like it's the holy grail, even though there's more fudge factor, more plasticity baked in than you know you would get if you just simply Googled it. But
so true.
Still, the idea is pretty ubiquitous that everyone chose by and large to feed carbon deplete nutrients into the roots and then shove a bunch of carbon in the form of a fully oxidized gas, a monomer no less.
So hold on, my fault, y'all. I hate to do this, but yeah, I'm actually at the limit of what I can do. I actually have to go somewhere. I apologize. I started out bad and I'm ending bad. We didn't get to half the stuff I wanted to get to. But I'll actually stop the video there and we can recap the rest of it next Sunday. You all enjoy yourself. I will see you all later. And I'm sorry about that. Yeah, no more screaming next week. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I did enjoy this though. This was nice. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the glass tip. You enjoy yourself, fellow Cannabisians, because I know I did.